The Cat and the Meat. One day Hodja came back from the market with a very nice piece of meat for dinner. He left it with his wife and went out to have a cup of tea. While he was gone, his wife prepared a wonderful shish kebab, but it looked and smelled so good she couldn't resist tasting it. Just then some of her friends came by, and in a short time the meat was all gone. Hodja returned for dinner, but his wife served him a thin, watery soup instead of the meat. "But where is the meat?" asked Hodja. "Oh, the cat ate it," said his wife. "But it was a whole kilo," said Hodja. He then found the cat and put it on the scales. It weighed 1 kilo. "So I have found the meat," Hodja said. "Now where is the cat?" A slap on the back. One day Hodja was walking quietly along the street when a troublesome villager came up behind him and slapped him on the back. Then he excused himself, saying, "I'm so sorry, Hodja. I thought you were someone else, a friend of mine," and he laughed. Angered, Hodja grabbed the man and took him to the court. At the court, he asked the judge to fine the man for his offensive behavior. "But, Hodja," said the judge, "this is really quite minor. Why don't you forget it?" However, Hodja insisted, and so the judge fined the man 2 small coins. The man agreed right away to pay the fine, but he told Hodja to wait a minute while he went home to get the money. Hodja waited and waited, but the man didn't come back. Finally, Hodja walked up to the judge and slapped him on the back, saying, "There, now when he comes back he can pay you the coins." The Sound of Money. A poor hungry man was walking along the street with just a piece of bread in his hand. He came to a restaurant where he saw some meatballs being grilled. The cooking meat was so near, and the smell was so delicious. The man held his piece of bread over the meat to catch some of its wonderful smell. As he started to eat the bread, the angry restaurant owner seized him and took him away to see the judge, who happened to be Hodja. "This man was stealing the smell of my meat without asking permission," said the restaurant owner. "I want you to make him pay me." Hodja thought for a minute, and then held his purse in front of the owner and shook it. "What are you doing that for?" asked the owner. Hodja replied, "I am paying you. The sound of money is fair payment for the smell of food." The Dead Pot. One day Hodja borrowed a large pot from his neighbor. After a few days he returned it to the owner along with a small pot. "What is this?" asked the neighbor, pointing at the small pot. "Oh," said Hodja, "your big pot had a baby while it was at my house." Naturally, the neighbor was pleased to get an extra pot, so he accepted it. A week or so later, Hodja borrowed the large pot again, but this time he didn't return it. So one day the neighbor came to Hodja's house and asked him for the pot. "I can't give it back because it died," said Hodja. "You're crazy," said the neighbor. "A cooking pot can't die." "Why not?" said Hodja. "If you believe it can give birth, why can't you believe it can die?" Sugar on yogurt. Hodja and a friend were returning to their village when they stopped for lunch. They spread out a few things to eat, including a pot of yogurt. Now, this friend was well known as a very stingy person. As Hodja took out his spoon, the friend sprinkled sugar on half of the surface and told Hodja, "I like to eat yogurt with sugar on it." "May I have some on my half?" asked Hodja. "Oh, no, I don't have much, and it's expensive," said the friend. Hodja thought for a moment, and then pulled a bottle of vinegar from his sack and started to pour it on the yogurt. "Wait," said his friend, "what are you doing? I happen to like vinegar on my yogurt, and so I'm pouring some on my half," Hodja said, as the vinegar slowly spread across the surface of the yogurt. The Clothes and the Feast. Hodja was invited to a big feast at the house of a very rich man. He went, but he wore his usual everyday clothes. Once he got to the banquet, the guests, who were very richly dressed, and the servants all ignored him. After a while, Hodja went home and put on his very best clothes, a beautiful turban, a silk robe, fine jewelry, and a magnificent fur coat. He returned to the feast, and this time everyone welcomed him and talked to him. The host asked Hodja to sit beside him at the table. The servants came and filled his plate with delicious food. But Hodja surprised everyone. He took off his coat and held it to the plate, saying, "Eat, my good fur coat, eat, enjoy the meal." His host was astonished and said to Hodja, "What are you doing?" Hodja replied, "It is the clothes you invited to this feast, not me." The Day of Judgment. Once Hodja had a fat young lamb which he liked very much. One day some friends were visiting, and they proposed to Hodja that they kill the lamb and have a feast. At first Hodja resisted, but finally one of them said, "Look, Hodja, the day of judgment will come to all of us soon, so why don't we enjoy life's pleasures now?" Reluctantly, Hodja agreed, and they all went to the bank of a river. They built a fire and killed and roasted the lamb. After the feast, the other men took off their clothes and went swimming in the river. While they were swimming, Hodja threw their clothes on the fire. His friends came back and couldn't find their clothes. Then they realized that Hodja had burned them. "What did you do that for?" they asked. Hodja replied, "The fire needed fuel, and see how well it is burning now to keep you warm. And since the day of judgment is coming soon, what do you need the clothes for?" The Thinking Turkey. Hodja was in the market one day when he noticed a man with a cage in his hand. There was a parrot in the cage, and the man was selling his parrot, shouting out to the market-goers, "100 gold ducats." As Hodja watched, someone bought the parrot. Hodja suddenly saw a chance to make some money, so he rushed home and got a turkey from his backyard. He returned to the market and began shouting, 200 gold ducats for this beautiful turkey." But nobody showed any interest. Finally, a friend came up to Hodja and said to him, "Hodja, are you crazy? You can't sell a turkey for that price." Hodja said, "Why not? My turkey is as beautiful as a parrot that was sold for 100 ducats this morning, and my turkey is bigger." "But, Hodja," the friend said, "that parrot is valuable because it talks like a man." "Is that so?" said Hodja. "Well, my turkey thinks like a man." The Sermon. One Friday, Nasreddin Hodja came to the mosque to give a sermon. He got up in the pulpit and said to the people, "Do you know what I'm going to talk about today?" Surprised, the people said, "No, we have no idea." "Well then," said Hodja, "there's no point in my talking to you because you won't understand." And he went home. The next Friday he came again to the mosque and again said to the people, "Do you know what I'm going to talk about?" This time the listeners were prepared, and so one of them said, "Yes, we do." "In that case," Hodja said, "there's no point in my talking to you because you already understand." Then, on the next Friday, he came and asked the same question. "Do you know what I'm going to talk about?" Now the listeners were prepared again. "Some of us do, and some don't," they said. "All right then," Hodja said. "Those who know what I'm going to talk about tell those who don't know." And he went home. Obey your mother. Hodja went to the bazaar to buy a donkey. He finally chose one and paid the 2 men who sold it to him. He didn't realize that the 2 men were clever thieves. As Hodja was leading the donkey home, the 2 men came up behind him. They slipped the rope off the donkey's neck. One man put the rope on his own neck and followed behind Hodja. The other quietly led the donkey back to the bazaar to sell it again. After a while, Hodja turned around and saw the man. "What are you doing there?" he exclaimed. The thief said, "I disobeyed my mother, and as a punishment I was turned into a donkey. But now, praise God, I have been bought by an honest man, and the spell is broken." "How wonderful," said Hodja. "Now, go back home and never disobey your mother again." The next day, Hodja went back to the bazaar, and there was the first donkey seller standing beside the donkey Hodja had bought the day before. Amazed, Hodja walked up to the donkey and said angrily, "You fool, I thought I told you never to disobey your mother again."